Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for April 30th, 2022 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Today was a beautiful sunny day, just with some clouds moving in the afternoon, and overall it felt a little chilly at times because of a northeast wind, but the winds were relatively light, and at the end of the day when the winds died off, it felt quite warm. The first bird I photographed when I got to the platform this morning was a green heron that was flying by. Here we have two Caspian terns flying sideways as one chases the other. Here we have a nice male purple martin. Here we have a double-crested cormorant, and we continue to see large migrating flocks of cormorant out over the lake as well as overhead. Here we have an adult broad-winged hawk, and we only had 5 broadwings today, probably mostly because of the northerly winds pushing the birds farther inland. That's especially common for things like broad-winged hawks that soar a lot. Every time they stop to soar and circle, the wind pushes them whichever way the wind is blowing. So when we have a northerly wind, it keeps them away from the lake shore. Here we have a bald eagle that's almost a full adult. You can still see a little bit of dark in the tail and a little bit of white in the wings. Here we have an adult Cooper's hawk directly overhead, and you can see that the outer tail feathers, which fold underneath, are slightly shorter. Here's a nice female American kestrel, and here's an upper wing shot of the same bird. So you can see the females are that brown color on top, compared to the males, which have an orange back and blue and black wings. Here we have a bald eagle, and it's not just any bald eagle. This is what we call a southern juvenile bald eagle. It's the first one I've seen this season for sure. And what do I mean by southern juvenile? So most of the juvenile bald eagles we see were born last summer, probably up somewhere in Canada. So by now they've had their feathers for almost a full year. They're looking quite worn. They're starting to molt. This is a southern juvenile bald eagle, meaning this was born over the winter somewhere in the southern USA, where they can nest throughout the winter. So if we look at this bird, first of all, we know it's juvenile, dark head, dark body, even trailing edge to the wing, no feathers have been replaced. So just the overall plumage. And how do we know it's a southern juvenile? Just because of how fresh it is. Look how dark this body is. And if you've seen some of my recent videos, you know the other juveniles we've been seeing, they're very faded underneath by now, and a lot of them are starting to molt some of the inner primary feathers. This bird just looks perfectly clean, like it just came out of the nest, and that's how we know that it's a southern juvenile. Now, where these birds actually come from, it's hard to say. I don't know the exact details on that. We always say Florida, but I'm sure it's other states as well. But it's kind of cool. You know, these are birds that are born, and then they make their first migration during the spring, which is the opposite. Most birds are born over the summer, and their first migration is south in the fall. So we'll keep an eye out for more of these as we get into May. Here we have a juvenile Cooper's hawk. So big head, brown teardrop streaking lets us know it's a juvenile. And also teardrop streaking like this is more common on Cooper's hawks compared to sharp-shinned hawks. And we can kind of see the shorter outer tail feathers. Here we have another southern juvenile bald eagle. So again, same thing. Just look how dark the head and the underside are. No signs of fading, no signs of wear. Just a very fresh plumaged bird. Here we have another juvenile bald eagle, and I'm really not sure what to make of this one. I would say this is not a southern juvenile. I'm never sure when they're kind of the splotchy white on the body if that's actual fading and feather wear or what causes that, but it's certainly not that overall dark that we saw on the southern juveniles. And we can see there's a little bit of wear in these feathers out here, so maybe this is a bird that was born last summer and has just survived with a minimum of damage. Here we have an adult bald eagle. And actually, I think it was carrying something. Someone asked what was wrong with its foot here, but I think it's got something because there were 2 immature bald eagles that were chasing it, trying to track it down. So all 3 of them came over pretty low and were flapping and going really fast. Here we have another bald eagle that we normally would call this like a 4th year or a 5th year type, where it's almost looking like an adult, but the head, instead of being completely white, still has some dark, still some dark in the tail. Still some white throughout the wings and a little bit on the body. So another year or two, this will be in full adult plumage. And if we take a look at eBird today, I had 52 species. And I just realized I forgot to upload my photos to the eBird checklist. I'll have to do that after the video. And if we take a look at hawk count for our migrant raptor totals, and if these numbers change, it's because I was having some problems with Dunkadoo. So I think I got it all incorrect here into hawk count, but I'll probably check again tomorrow just to make sure these are correct. But our totals were 140 turkey vultures, 1 osprey, 23 bald eagles, so really good bald eagle flight, 4 northern harriers, 10 sharp-shinned hawks, 4 Cooper's hawks, 5 broad-winged hawks, and 9 red-tailed hawks, for a total of 196 migrants today. And since it's the end of the month, let's briefly take a look at how this April compared to some of the past couple years. So if we go through species by species, for black vultures, we had 3, which is the most, it looks like, since 2013. For turkey vultures, we were a little lower than last year and a little lower than a couple years, but keep in mind, we had that 10,000 turkey vulture day on March 31st. So the bulk of the turkey vultures came through in March this year. So to have another 13,000 in April is a pretty impressive number. For ospreys, it looks like we were lower than some seasons, higher than some. Seems like there's a lot of variability in those numbers. For bald eagles, 365. As we scroll back, that's probably a record for April, yeah. Especially as you get back 20, 30 years, the numbers just don't even come close to that. So we might be on pace for a record bald eagle season. We'll see how we keep doing throughout May. For northern harriers, a little lower than last year, similar to 2 years ago. So again, there's a lot of ups and downs. Sharpshins, we're in the ballpark of the past couple years. It looks like 2019 we had about twice as many in April. Cooper's hawks, less than last year, but higher than the year before. Again, looks like a lot of variability. Red-shouldered hawks, we had 40, which looks on the low end. I think we had a decent number for March, though, so overall we might be okay for those. But as you go back in time, I think there were some pretty huge flights back in the day. So that number of 40 is low in historical comparisons. For broad-winged hawks, we had 14,000 and change. So that's certainly a lot more than we had the 2 prior years. Now, like I said, last Monday, we had more broadwings in that single day than we had all of last season. So it's very variable just depending on the weather. You can see back in 2017, 25,000 in April. So some years you get these huge numbers. Here's 38,000 in April 2012. So yeah, I think this was decent for the past couple years. If we look at red tails, 784, looks like it's on the high end out of the past couple years until you get back to 2017. Rough legs, 35, that's definitely on the higher end out of the past couple years. But as you get back to historical numbers, 238 in April 2011, 442. Yeah, you get some ridiculous numbers. 929 back in 96. Golden eagles, we had 22, which is the most since 2015. So that seems like a pretty good total. And again, 10 of those came last Monday. American kestrels seem a little bit low, only 195 compared to 300 or 400 some years. Merlins, a little lower than the past couple years, but in the ballpark of a few previous years. And peregrines, we had 21, which was maybe a new record for April. Yeah. So a lot of peregrines came through in April. And 1 short-eared owl. Actually, I think it might have been 2. I never added the 1. I need to go back and do that. So anyway, the overall April total was 30,693. So overall, pretty good total. Compared to the past couple years, it's one of the higher ones. This was my first season. I'm trying to remember if we got I think we got a lot of turkey vultures in April of that year. Now, this kind of comparison's not perfect for a couple of reasons. One of them is that the turkey vultures sometimes come through at the end of March rather than the beginning of April. And the other one is sometimes you get to really big broadwing flights at the end of April, and sometimes they're in May. So it's hard to do a direct comparison just looking at 1 month. And also there's no easy way to see where we are this season for each species compared to previous seasons in terms of including March and April together. But anyway, that gives us a little bit of an idea of how some species were doing, because a lot of things like sharp-shinned hawks do peak in April. So it gives us an idea of where we're at. And I'd say overall, it's been a pretty good season. And if we take a look at the forecast for tomorrow, it's looking partly cloudy, then increasing clouds with showers, high in the low 60s, winds east at 10 to 20 miles per hour. So, a little bit of sunshine in the morning, but the winds really aren't looking that great. Although there might be a little bit of a southerly component in the morning, maybe like a southeast or an east-southeast. So, it might be a little bit of something from that. But as the day goes on and those winds shift more east or northeast, especially being so strong, I don't really expect too much to happen. Although it is interesting how warm it's going to get. Definitely warmer than we've had most of the past week. For Monday, we're looking at rain showers early with overcast skies later, high in the upper 50s, winds west-southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. So Monday could be an interesting day. Those winds are good early, but the lingering rain showers might hold back a flight. But I would keep an eye on the exact timing of when the rain showers are ending and when the winds are going to shift away from a southwesterly direction. So we might get something of a flight on Monday, so keep an eye on it. And for Tuesday, mostly cloudy with showers later, high in the mid-50s, winds east at 10 to 15 miles per hour, so probably won't be much migrating on Tuesday. All right, that's it for today. And also, it was good to see some people from this morning's field trip from the Rochester Birding Association and Buffalo Ornithological Society. This is sort of an annual field trip they do. And most of the time when you schedule a hawk watching field trip ahead of time, the weather turns out terrible. It's very hard to time a good day when you're scheduling ahead and just randomly picking a day. But they ended up with a decent day to come out. Not the highest totals ever, but I think we saw a good number of birds, and it was definitely a beautiful day with sunny skies. If you like this video, please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any of these daily updates from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. This is David Brown. Thanks for watching.